sports information staff. Hunter Lane, appreciate your help, bud. This overall thought it was a fairly well played game by our guys. You know, and one of the things that I'm going to continue to have to remind myself is we're playing a lot of young guys, a lot of minutes in situations that they've never been in before. You know, and the gravity of that sometimes I assume, you know, they should be more prepared for. There are a couple times I thought we had them kind of teetering, and then we turned the ball over a couple times, and it's an 8-point game instead of it being an 18-point game. And it's kind of got to learn on it, but it's always better to learn through a win. So I'm happy for these kids to get their first win as college basketball players. And obviously, it goes without saying, I'm happy that Javon Small was back in the form today.
What do the last 6 days look like as far as, you know, practicing and, you know, meetings and looking at film? I mean, after that first off, with a pretty young team, like you said.
It was hard. It was hard on everybody. I didn't sleep Monday at all. I was in there fairly early Tuesday, and you know, we had some, you know, we had some hard conversations, and not because the loss, right, was a result of how we played. You know, we didn't play with the right level of urgency, I would say, to start the game. We tried to turn it on a little bit, and in the end, but when you play that way, I tell our guys all the time, you don't mess with the game. Like don't try to figure out how to trick the game. You can't. The game's gonna always win out. And so how it wins out is the referee's in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and the guy falls. Like, or Connor Dow's foot, instead of being a 13, needs to be a size 9, so he doesn't have his toe on the line when he gets a steal late. So just, again, respect the game enough to approach it the right way, to play it the right way, to follow the game plan. And you know, we did that much better today. Sam's obviously a very, very help-conscious team as you drive. And we told him, hey, we're probably going to take, you know, more threes than normal. But I felt confident that we have a good shooting team, that we get the right guys, the right shots. I didn't like that we took 9 of our first 10 from 3. That wasn't the game plan. But they were trying to follow the instructions of, hey, drive and kick and look for those shots. So it was a hard week, and it was good. It was a good hard week. You got to learn through hard as you're young, because then hard becomes easier as you go along. It never becomes easy, but it becomes easier.
Like, this is the most threes that you guys have hit in a game since 2019. You also hit 17 at Texas Tech. Was it relieving to see the game plan come to fruition like that, the driving kick?
Well, I mean, I love all you guys, but you know, obviously I come in here a lot of times and I get asked about whether we can really shoot. So it helps to kind of be able to say, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we won't shoot it this well every night, but I think there's evidence, and that I can say I believe we have good shooters, and if they get over the course of the year, we're going to make a fair amount of threes. I try not to focus on the number as much of threes that we take, as much as the type of shots, how they came, where they come from, who's shooting them, right? Scan this thing real quick. Small took 7, Wright took 7, Thompson took 5, Marsh took 0, Garrison took 0. Like, the right guys are taking threes, the wrong guys aren't, right? And so that's what you want. You want the right guys taking the right kind of shots in the right place to look for.
If you're in a rhythm like that offensively from 3, do you want to keep shooting them threes?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not the volume to me. I don't. It's not like we get to a number and I'm saying, okay, now we're not going to shoot anymore. Now, if you're not making them, you want to try to explore other ways to get into a rhythm offensively. But yeah, I mean, it's not like if there were 5 more minutes, we could have gotten to 40 attempts, and I would have been perfectly fine with that if they were coming from the right place on, right guys on the court.
Justin looks like a guy who's really aggressive when he gets the open look, and he's a guy who can stretch the court. How much does he provide for 3-point shooting?
Yeah, I've said it before. Him and Daly kind of give us something we haven't had at that spot, like skill from a shooting standpoint, and ball handling and playmaking and ability to drive. Both him and Daly need to understand that they got to let the game come to them a little bit more. But they're just anxious. They've always scored, and so that's how they identify themselves and validate their success on the court. Whereas, in my mind, in many ways, Vaughn obviously was the best player out there, but Garrison had as much impact on the game because his 8 rebounds and 3 blocks. Really, we needed all of them. So just getting those young guys to buy into impacting the game in other ways besides scoring.
I know you're only 3 games in, but how would you assess your guys' rebounding?
We played 3 already.
Two.
Man, I'm up 2-1. I just wanted 2 in your mind. I don't, it's too early to say still. This is Javon's first game in probably 10 months. Last played in the first half of last season. So we're still trying to figure ourselves out together. I think today was a good sign of what we can be over the course of the season. We just have to do it consistently.
David Barnes started the game 3 of 4 from 3, and after that, he didn't make another field goal after that. What did you do defensively against him?
I don't know if we did anything different. I called a timeout, I think, after this third one, and I think they got the message.
Was Javon at all emotional before the game, or having not played live action in 10 months? I mean, what was that like? And telling him he was gonna play, and then seeing the game he had, 40 minutes.
Yeah, I can't speak to his emotion. That'd be something he would be able to maybe answer. He was ready to play. I think he felt like he was ready to go. We had conversations over the last few weeks about when the time was right, and I was never going to rush him back. But obviously, in the back of my mind, I knew how much impact he could have on everybody else on the court. He took his first shot 5 minutes ago, I think, in the first half. Only shot 1 shot in the first half, and it ends up our second leading scorer, 5 assists, 1 turnover. So, no doubt, his complete presence on the court is a big deal for us.
Beyond the scoring, what do you, from your point of view, what do you think he does best to have an effect like he did tonight?
He just demands. He is. He's not afraid to get after people. You need that from a guy who's going to have the ball in the hands and needs to be an extension of the coach on the floor. Somebody who's, sometimes he's going to say some things to his teammates that they may not like, but they need to hear it. So hopefully that type of leadership kind of starts to permeate through some of the younger guys, and we get more kind of leadership by committee. Because we don't necessarily have a bunch. Our guys are all really good kids, and they're really nice guys, and sometimes you don't need to be a nice guy in the heat of battle. You need to get people to do what they're supposed to do, and he doesn't mind, challenging folks. So vocally, whether it be by just taking over, he took over a stretch of the game there and kind of separated for us. So his presence, and I think everybody understands what he is, what he's about, which is about winning.
Q played 33 minutes tonight, 39 I think last week. How do you balance his workload, but also what he can do for your team, just 1 through 4 really in the lineup?
Yeah, so Q's got high capacity for, in terms of physical ability. So I don't really worry about his minutes as much as, making sure that he's staying, as sharp as he can from a focus standpoint. He was guarding Barnes to start the game, for example. Now, part of it was we did a switch late because they hadn't gotten out in the lineup that was supposed to play. So kind of changed in the last minute, but he's got to be, as a guy who's been through this thing a few times with us already, be able to make that adjustment a little quicker.
Did you have an update on Bryce in regard to the starting lineup?
No, he was late today. It's nothing major. It was the first sub. Deal with it, move on. It was a mistake. He's a pretty responsible kid, but the standard is the standard, and he accepted responsibility and moved on. I think he actually looked pretty good coming off the bench. So.
What'd you think when he comes into the game after a shoulder injury and goes up for a dunk?
Yeah, made me feel really good that there wasn't a whole lot of reservation about going in there. And I'm going to tell him to just start dunking more, because if he misses another layup, I may, my blood pressure already, my doctor tells me it's probably teetering right now. So we need to just make the layups.
Going back to Small being able to have those conversations and look guys in the eye and be mean if you need to, is that something that you as a coach kind of tell your older guys to be able to enforce that, whether on the court or in the practice session or on the sideline, or is that something that a lot of those guys just have that quality?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. It's an old adage that player-led teams are far more successful than coach-led teams, because oftentimes there's a friction between the coaches and players in that case, and you got to go places sometimes that people don't like, but our job is to get the best out of them. So when it comes from their peers, people that they respect and are out there battling with, sometimes it's received better, and teams get close that way. I was that way as a player. I wasn't very good, but I wanted to win, and I didn't really care what you thought about what I was saying to you. And I see a lot of those same qualities in Javon.
I mean, even I think it was after the exhibition, you had 3 freshmen up here. They were all kind of saying how they, Daly or Garrison can go up and say the same thing to an upperclassman about this is what I'm seeing, or this is what I've seen to kind of move the team forward.
Yeah, I mean, they feel, everybody's got a voice, but you can only speak to something you're knowledgeable about. And it's hard for young guys to be able to hold older guys accountable because oftentimes they don't really know what that means. They don't know what it looks like to study a scout report and have it down to a T to make sure your free throw blockouts. I jumped on Brandon early because there was a loose ball right there on the baseline. They beat us too. And it's got to be a play we got to make. He doesn't understand. It's in his mind, it's not that big a deal, it's one possession. Well, there are a lot of one possession games coming down the pike, and so my job is to help them understand the gravity of every time we can have the ball, we want to get it. So whatever it takes to make that happen. And just go through it. You got to go through it sometimes to learn it.
I think it was that possession with Brandon. I think they got a couple offensive rebounds, and then they scored, and you call a timeout, and you're talking to him. How coachable is he, so far this first couple months of the season?
He's one of the easiest guys I've ever had to coach because he accepts responsibility. He very rarely tries to defend what's usually indefensible because a lot of times that's where the breakdown happens. Like I tell guys all the time, I'm not telling you anything that I didn't actually see. I don't usually make up stuff because I don't want you to not do well. I actually need you to do well. So if I'm telling you something, it's probably best to just accept it. And if I'm wrong, after I go watch the film, I always take responsibility myself.